is it like some people who perform better at a higher body fat, even though on paper they should their wilks should be better if they're slightly leaner?
Yeah, so this is another one of those things where I had to learn that you can't be from coaching, that you can't be dogmatic about, you know, everyone like male. Not all males should be 15% body fat to maximize their competitiveness in powerlifting. I think what I would say is actually this is that almost everybody performs better at higher body fats in terms of just absolute strength. Now, there's a point of diminishing returns and a point at which actually getting too fat hurts your deadlift enough that it hurts your total, but almost everybody performs better at a higher body fat. So what it comes down to is that as you get leaner, a smaller and smaller portion of people can hang on to their maximum amount of size. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're capable of holding, we'll just make up a number completely, 100 pounds of lean body mass at 20% body fat, right? There's a certain amount of people that will be able to hold that same amount or a very similar amount at 18%. But then as soon as you get to 16%, a portion of those people drop out. They cannot hold that size at that body fat. Then when you get to 14%, another way bigger portion drops out. And then you get to 12, a huge portion drops out. And when you get to 10, it's almost nobody. And then when you get to 8, like nobody, right? But maybe a few people can maintain that level of leanness while holding on to almost all of their size that they had at a higher body fat. So what happens is that it's just another genetic factor.
Right.
Like if you can hold on to your size while being lean, you should. But not everybody can. And so you can get into a situation where being lean actually decreases your wilks because you just can't train as hard and hold on to nearly as much muscle as when you're fluffier.
Right.
And this point of when you start to lose a lot of muscle is different for everybody, but on average for a lot of males, it's in that 10 to 12% range. Where I would say a really good portion of people at 15% lose very, very little. And then almost everybody at 20% can hold on to their maximum amount. So it's just, that's a big part of it as well. And I think the other thing, which I'll only loosely talk about or quickly talk about, is that in the higher weight classes, it's even rarer to find people who can be lean at those weights because there's not a lot of tall, gifted people in powerlifting. Because generally, tall, gifted people play sports that pay them.
Right. Yeah, or they might be doing something like strongman or something.
Yeah.
And for those of the listeners who want to learn more about this, Izzy has a really good ebook called Eating to Win. I'm going to link it in the description below.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, and then, in terms of like the Powerlifting to Win and Programming to Win programs, I think that was one of the first, or maybe it was the first program that I saw that actually included conditioning or cardio in it. Have you seen other programs do that? Because I haven't done that. And what was the reason for including conditioning on top of the hard training that we already do?
The biggest reason, okay, well, let me answer your first question. Do I see anyone else who does that? Yeah, there's some other people that do that. I know that Mike Teixeira of Reactive Training System will include cardio in some of his GPP stuff. And so there's some other people out there that do include it, but a lot of coaches won't write it explicitly. The reason why I write it explicitly is because I came from a background of doing starting strength and working with people who had done that program. And kind of what that program is like towards the end of it, it's you do 3 sets of 5 at something that's almost your 5 rep max, and you'll rest for like 10 to 12 minutes between sets because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. But what I found is that while that works in terms of pushing your 3x5 max higher and higher and higher, is that it puts you in a horrible position to make progress afterwards. Because you can't recover from any decent amount of volume because you've done almost nothing to stress your work capacity, to stress your ability to recover from sets quickly and to recover from a lot of training. So the reason why I include cardio in my programs is I think a lot of people think I'm trying to get them in better shape or something, But the biggest reason is so that they can do more training volume and recover from that training volume. So I don't want a situation where, let's say people have like all these load drops, and sometimes, they might be taking like, say, a 9% load drop or whatever, and they might need to do 8 sets that day. Well, if you're resting 7 to 8 minutes between sets, you're never going to get your workout done. You're not going to have the time to do that. And furthermore, it's going to bury you. Because that's the other problem, is that when you have poor work capacity, you might get an increase. So let's say I have somebody doing a set, like a repeats, right? And they're supposed to do sets of 8 starting at RPE 8, and they're supposed to repeat that until it's RPE 9. People with poor work capacity will get 2 sets. They'll do 1 set of 8 at RPE 8, and then on the next set they'll fail. They won't even get 8 reps. And it doesn't matter if they rested a long time or not.
Right.
So the reason why I include cardio is to make sure that we're stressing those systems and developing work capacity, so that when I get novices and intermediates on the necessary amounts of volume as they become advanced, they can actually handle it. They can actually do the program without failing the sets or without taking so long that it's unrealistic, and just generally being able to recover from more work more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in terms of training in general, what is like the biggest mistake you see people making when it comes to like their powerlifting training in general?
So I think it's different for each level, but what I will say is that for honestly, for novices, it's not just milking linear progression enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it when people reset 80 times to try and get like the highest numbers of all time on linear progression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of silly. But sometimes people, they say that they're finished with linear progression and they gained 3 pounds or something. And it's like, you need to, when you do linear progression, you need to put on weight, you need to do things properly and get what you can out of it. I don't want people to reset over and over and over again, kind of banging their head against the wall. But, you shouldn't be finishing linear progression well below what all of your peers finish. Some people will because of genetics, but that's rare by necessity. So I think novices just want to hurry, and they want to get to intermediate and advanced programs that are more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For intermediates, it's running the same program every week. So they run almost the same program every week. There's just no periodization.
Mm-hmm.
They run the same thing over and over and over and expect that's going to get long-term progress. Whereas that stops working really quickly once you're no longer a novice. So like a good example of this would be like the Texas method. Okay. It's like this program where you do a 5x5 on Monday, and then on Friday you go for a 5-rep max, and you just repeat this program forever until you start failing. And you'll start failing really quickly because there's no periodization. So intermediates don't use enough periodization in their routines.
Mm-hmm.
And then for more advanced lifters, I would say it's nowadays they get too specific with their training means. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by this is they never do anything but heavy reps, and they only do the competition movements or something close to that. Not enough variety, not enough hypertrophy work. And what ends up happening is that they remain perpetually underweight, perpetually like a little bit hurt from overuse injuries, always having tendonitis.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up resulting in stagnation or just working really, really hard for not as much return as they should get.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another, almost all of these, if you think about it, are problems with impatience. But yeah, that for advanced athletes, it's hyper specificity of training means. This is what I'm seeing nowadays as the biggest mistake.